let's check out the audio. We'll see how the audio is doing. Make sure I didn't mess anything up on my setup on the way to get all this stuff working here. Looking like we got some people saying the audio sounds good. That is exciting. That's exactly what I like to hear. Now, I'm a very punctual person. I said 8 o'clock was when I was going to be planning on starting this one. So you know, we're a couple minutes before that, but you know, while we're in the preliminary phase, I figure maybe I'll talk a little bit about what's going to go on tonight. So I did have a post that I talked about this stuff, but as long as we're all here, we might as well go over it one more time. So, going to be doing a special presentation here today. This is Ask Me Anything that I'm doing to celebrate hitting another milestone of 8,000 subscribers, which I was extremely satisfied with, extremely excited for, and I say this every time, but I was surprised that I got my first 1,000. So, you know, every time I get more, it's just crazy to me. So thank you to everybody who has supported the channel in any way, and that most definitely includes watching, subscribing, and recommending my channel to anybody that you know that you think might be interested. Because that is, as I say and have consistently said since the very beginning, that is the best way to support Judging for the Win. So thank you to everybody. Now, I will be looking at the chat and monitoring stuff in the chat, so if you come up with a question or a follow-up or something you're interested in, you can definitely type stuff in the chat and I will be responding to that. But if not, there are also a handful of questions that I had prepared from stuff that people had sent earlier, so if it gets to be a little bit dry, then I'll fall back onto the prepared questions. But my content certainly merits all the support it's received. Oh, thank you so much. And again, that's another one. You know, if the watching and the subbing and the recommending stuff isn't enough for you, the next best way that you can support Judging for the Win is leaving positive comments. Because that's the you know, secret formula to getting Judge Dave excited for making more. It is like the most unbelievable feeling to know that people out there are appreciating my work and my content that I create. So thank you to everybody who posts positive comments about the channel or about me. How do you get so awesome? Well, it was a long process, over 30 years in the making. I'm not gonna say exactly how many years. Now I'm starting to get old here, but you know, the real secret is the Judging for the Win mindset. And what does winning look like? Well, it looks like trying to become a little bit better every day. And after enough days of trying to get better at something, you'll eventually become better at it, and that's the real secret. So that's what I would recommend to anybody. And I've heard that it doesn't just work in judging or magic or rules and policy knowledge. It actually works in a very broad variety of different types of things. That's definitely what I would recommend. Well, hey, after all of that, we are ready to get started, and boy, I'm really excited about some of this stuff. Let's take a close look here. Now, make sure we got all my stream setting stuff set up correctly here. Be a real pain in the bum if that wasn't working out. All right, excellent. So we are ready to get started. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and thank you for everybody who is watching this at some later day, I suppose. First question, and this is a really big one that I get a lot, which is, how can I get in contact with Judging for the Win? And that is a great question. And I've gotten this question a lot of times. And finally, I have the ability to give a really good answer to this one. So this dovetails nicely into an announcement that I had been wanting to make tonight. And that is, we now have a website. We have judgingforthewin.com. So if you go in your browser of choice and you type in judgingftw.com, you'll be greeted with this page here, with a link right on the front page for if you'd like to suggest a question. You hit the contact button, you got links to all my social media, although here's a secret. This is the social media that I do like 99% of my stuff on. So if you're following me on YouTube, then you're pretty much good to go. And then we've got, if you really wanted to know what was going on, there's the news tab here for some, whatever types of news that's going on with the channel. But yes, we now have judgingftw.com. I'm very excited about that. And I really think that it's going to be, I don't think it's going to really change anything about what's going on here, but for sure it's something that I think that I think that it's going to make things easier for everybody to have like one central location to get all that stuff together. So okay, so that's the first one and the first thing that I wanted to point out. And we'll have a link, if you're watching this later, we'll have a link down in the description box for ease of use. So, okay, what is my favorite layer in the layer system? And this is an interesting question. I would say probably the copy layer. I think the copying is one of my favorite rules topics in general. It's one of the first ones that I had to look up, like when I was personally learning the rules of Magic on a deeper level. There was a lot of questions I had about copy effects, and I had to study it. And so in a very real way, I would say that the copy effects is one of the first layers that I really looked into. So that's of course fitting because it's the first one in the layer system, and also the most recently updated, I believe. There was also a change, I believe, that happened at the same time in Layer 7. But yeah, Layer 1, the copy layer, would be my favorite one. So let's see. Here's the next one. Did you actually study engineering? And yes, the answer is yes, I did. I actually do hold a bachelor's in mechanical engineering from Purdue University. I assume that this question came in response to the April Fool's Day video that I did where I solved a physics problem in the style of my normal daily ruling videos. If you haven't seen that video, definitely check it out. It is, I think it's a great physics problem. All the other stuff I said in that video is true, by the way. I actually did have a position where I was teaching one of the undergraduate physics classes. And it was, and probably to this day, it still is my favorite job that I've ever had. Unfortunately, being a TA is not really paying the bills. And without getting a doctorate or at least a master's degree, I don't think being a professor is going to happen anytime soon either. So, yep, that is in fact a real thing. So, and hey, maybe there's some alternate timeline where I'm doing physics videos instead of magic or judging videos. So that's a true story. Is Khans of Tarkir when I became a judge? Yes, Khans of Tarkir. Actually, I did become a judge like in the previous block, like the Theros block, but it was like towards the tail end of that. So Khans of Tarkir is the first. The first block that I judged the whole back when blocks were a thing. Those boxes back there is all boxes that I've earned through judging, and so that's where I actually do have additional boxes that you do not see on the back shelf there, but we're saving those for a rainy day. Kind of dovetails nicely into one of the other questions, which is how did I get into judging? And this is another very popular one. Yeah, when I first started being interested in judging, it was way earlier in my Magic career. I actually started playing Magic back in Darksteel was the first set, or like the current set when I started playing, and Fifth Dawn was like the first set that I saw the release for. Very boring and typical story as far as what got me into playing it. I had a bunch of friends and they recommended the game to me, so then I started playing. So I imagine that story is probably pretty similar to a lot of other people's story for how they got into Magic. It's actually extremely interesting. Magic, I think, is like if you asked like 100 Magic players how they got into Magic, I would expect a full, like at least 90% of them would say something like, I had a friend, or like, something else, another person that recommended this game to me, and that's how I got into it. And that is, in my opinion, like probably the highest number out of like games. I'm trying to think like off the top of my head, like other games that I play. So someone got into the game when they saw the Champions of Kamikawa game next to the Yu-Gi-Oh card. Hey, that's very interesting. Because yeah, like almost everybody I've talked to that plays Magic, they play Magic because like one of their friends got them into it, or like someone they know got them into it. And that's very unusual, I think, in games. I think a lot of the time, like for example, if I talk about like how I got into playing Super Smash Bros. Melee or StarCraft, those are both games that I've played, or Scrabble. Like none of those are games that somebody I knew was already playing them and got me into it. I think if Magic really was serious about trying to get more players, I think that's something that they would want to do, is make it easier for somebody to start playing Magic like without having any friends that has played previously. I think that's the real I think that's the real key to getting more people interested in Magic, because almost everybody I know that plays Magic because of one of their friends. And if we could get people playing Magic who were interested in the game from some other way and they got into it, then I think that would be a real winner for the community. And so that kind of dovetails into another question that I got, which is, seeing the failure of Magic Legends, the economy on Magic Arena, and the constant cancellations of Magic movies, do you have any hope for the film and TV projects Netflix is working on? And that is for sure a thing that I think. Like, if think about, like, I also play League of Legends, and if you don't know anything about League of Legends, you probably at least know something about the TV show that League of Legends put out, which was generally regarded as being a pretty gosh darn good show by a lot of critics. And I think if Magic could have something like that, there were tons of people who started playing League of Legends because they saw the TV show and then they decided to try out League of Legends. And if Magic could have something similar to that, I think there would be a big success in terms of like new player acquisition. So hopefully, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Let's see. My thoughts on the Funny Gather rulings, like with Basalt Monolith. Can you post those in the chat? Like I haven't got the Gather rulings up handy for that. Got into the game when I got lost at summer camp, and there was a party of people searching for me, and I was totally, well, there you go. That's pretty cool. That's a wow. That I wish my origin story was like cool like that. Mine is, I think, very boring. If I could bring back a rule or a section, what would it be? Damage on the stack is like the obvious choice. I was playing back when damage on the stack was a thing, and there were a lot of cards that were, there were a lot of cards that were like balanced around the ability to sacrifice them with damage on the stack. Like I'm thinking Mog Fanatic or Sakura Tribe Elder is like the two really standout ones. And like the ability to like block and then trade with a 1/1 and then deal 1 damage or get a land in addition to that was like a big part of those cards' kit. So that's like the obvious one, but I would actually say floating mana between steps. So the way it works now is if you tap some permanents for mana, or you like get mana in your mana pool some other way, at the end of every step, which is different from phases, at the end of every step, the mana goes away. And what it used to be is it used to be at the end of every phase. So the phase would be your untap, upkeep, and draw step all together would be considered your beginning phase. Or another example would be your beginning of combat step, declare attackers, declare blockers, combat damage, and end of combat. All of that together is the combat phase. So it used to be that if you tapped mana, the mana would float from step to step, and it wouldn't leave your mana pool until you hit the next phase. So I think I would bring that one back, and the reason being is because without the ability to do that, it turns off some very things that you feel like you should be able to do. For example, a consequence of them changing it so you can't float mana across steps is that you cannot use mana from Deathrite Shaman to pay for a propaganda. And I made a whole video about how that works and the reason why you are not able to do that now. But that's the reason is because you cannot float mana between different steps the way you used to be able to. So let's see. Are there any rules that I think make the game less fun or break the flavor of the game? So that's a tough question because I really feel like if there's a conflict between the flavor and between making it a better game, like game balance, then the winner of that contest should be the game balance. What makes it a better, more interesting, more satisfying strategy game. And so I feel like there definitely are rules that go against that. That if we wanted it to be better flavorfully, we would make that be the case. But I can't say that most of those rules make the game worse strategically. So one of the things I feel like would really kind of does break the fun and the flavor of the game is colored artifacts and enchantments that can tap. If you ask, if you were to ask someone at Wizards what the difference between artifacts and enchantments are, there really isn't one, right? What's the actual difference between an artifact and an enchantment? Name something that either of those card types can do that the other one can't do, besides get destroyed by a shatter, for example. So to me, I think that's one of the biggest flavor fails in the game of Magic. What race do I main in StarCraft? It was Zerg. I've long since given up the dream of being good at StarCraft. Unfortunately, the APM is not there, and it does not appear to be moving in a favorable direction. Similar story with Super Smash Bros. By the way, I used to be really big into Super Smash Bros. Melee, but I eventually came to terms with the fact that my ability to execute was not where it needed to be a tournament level or even a solid club level player. And in fact, nowadays, oh my gosh, with the Uncle Punch and the 20XX stuff that they've got nowadays, people are so good, so good, so much better than they were back when I decided it was too technical for me. So I'm sure I would get slaughtered there. StarCraft, I think maybe not as much because there is more, I think, general strategy. Which the decision making part I always felt like I was better at, but that is why I play League of Legends now is because if you were to look at how much of that game is execution versus how much of it is strategy thinking and decision making, it's a lot more weighted towards that end of the spectrum. Crazier rules that isn't well known in Magic. I think I would have to say that restarting the game, if you play Karn Liberated, you probably know a lot of stuff about how restarting the game works. Your creatures basically have haste when they come into play, or your comes into play abilities work like they normally would, or there's a lot of weird kind of niche stuff about restarting the game. And I'm really looking forward to the next Restart the Game card, which I'm sure is probably not going to happen because, if they, I'm not going to say never, but I will say that, from a tournament logistics standpoint, every judge is probably hoping and praying that there is never a Restart the Game card that makes it into like tournament viability and isn't like Karn Liberated, where like shortly after you restart the game you're expected to win, because Shahrazad got banned for a reason. Just passed my L1 test today, and a large part of my studying was watching your videos, especially the older podcasts. Oh, thank you so much. I'm always really excited to hear from people who are, interested in getting better and say that my content is a resource that they use for that. So thank you. Restarting the game does not cause creatures to gain haste, but if you restart the game and then like you have Karn like having exiled a creature and you start the game with that creature in play, so technically because you started the game with that creature in play, you can attack with it on your first turn because you controlled it continuously since your beginning of that turn, which is in fact how Summoning Sickness rule is actually worded. So you don't actually have the word haste, like the ability haste, granted to that creature, but for most purposes it's basically like they have haste. Do I have any hobbies in addition to Magic? Yes. So in addition to like Magic and judging, which I consider two different hobbies, because the stuff that I do for my Magic hobby and the stuff that I do for my judging hobby is actually surprisingly different. I am now working on becoming a better web designer. That's one hobby. That's one hobby that I'm working on in support of the new judgingforthewin.com. But other like actual hobbies that I have, there's a couple of other games that I play. League is one of them. There's like some like other like kind of not related to that stuff I do. So for example, I'm an expert in analog video technology, and that's because of what I like learned from my Super Smash Bros. Melee days. And I'm also interested in digital design and those types of projects. So if anybody has got any good resources for FPGAs for the win, definitely shoot those my way. Let's see. Okay, so here's one that someone mentioned earlier. Is there a card I own that has a special connection for me? And this one, I thought about this one for a long time, because there are like, I've been playing Magic for a long time, right? I've been playing since Fifth Dawn was the first set that I the first set that I saw the release of. So there's a long list of cards. So I thought to myself, okay, well maybe it was like the first chase rare that I got, which was a Chroma Angel of Wrath. But unfortunately I traded that one away. And then I thought, well, maybe the first like money rare that I opened for a standard format. And so that would be Darksteel, Darksteel, or the Ravager, Arcbound Ravager. There we go. So unfortunately I traded that one away too, so I can't show you that one either. And I thought like there's a bunch of different like ideas for cards that I had. So I did finally settle on this one here, which is Kiki Mirror Breaker. If you can't tell, it is actually foil. So this card is the first good card, I suppose. The first really cool card that I thought like, maybe it wasn't like super good as a Magic card in terms of like tournament playability, but when I saw that card, it really captured my imagination. And like part of it is probably that it was foil. I actually opened it in the pre-release for Fifth Dawn, so it was part of the pre-release, the sealed pool that I had for the first pre-release that I played in, which I thought was also really cool. I am extremely happy that I did not ever trade that one away, because I still like it. At one point it was worth like $200 or something, and I think down to like $100 now. But that card, I think, it really kind of captures what Magic started out as for me, right? Can I name every card that has its own rule in the CR off the top? This is something that I've thought about a lot. Like, I've thought about like trying to make a list of all the cards that like either have their own rule or have had their own rule in the past. Like I don't have like a favorite one or anything, but it is something I've thought about. I could not name all of them like off the top of my head, but I feel like somebody. Let's see. So obviously we talked about Karn before. We talked about so that actually Shahrazad is another one we talked about before. Rasputin Dreamweaver. Trying to think of like some of the more interesting ones. The Ozolith. That one was like one of the more recent ones. That's a tough one. So let's see. What formats do I play? Okay, so I'm probably Modern is like by far the most format familiarity wise. I've been playing Modern since like Modern started out. Modern is like very close to when I started playing Magic, so I like naturally had all the cards when Modern was announced. So that's the one. If Legacy was still format, Legacy would be one of them that I play. Unfortunately, it's not really very plausible to find Legacy games. Very sad. But I really do like Legacy. I used to play Standard, but I kind of got out of that a while ago. The Standard scene in my area is like really there's not a lot of people who are like really interested in playing Standard. I've thought about trying to get into Pioneer, but like from what I've looked at, it basically doesn't seem like it would be like fundamentally any better than Modern, given that you like already have a deck for Modern. And this is probably going to hurt a lot of people, but I actually don't play very much Commander, like hardly at all. There is like a few friends that I have that play Commander, and every now and then I'll play some games with them. But yeah, I actually do not play very much Commander whatsoever. So whenever I have like questions on the show about Commander stuff, it's me hearing about that stuff from somebody else, generally not from me. So what is some advice to get into to teach another person how to play Magic? And this is a great question. There used to be, and I don't think that they do this anymore, but there used to be like precons that were like 30 card decks that game stores got from Wizards, and you could just give them to people. Like, you know, they were literally meant to be for free that you would just give out to people who are interested in learning the game. And those are like one of my favorite ways. I managed to come up with about a huge box full of those precons. And so when I'm teaching someone how to play Magic, that's like still my fallback. Because even though the cards are like, 10 years old by now, basically. Yeah, welcome decks. Even though I have like the first set of them, so even though those cards are like super old by now, probably over 10 years old, it's still the fundamentals, right? So you're still like, so I like those. Is the background my garage or is it the back of a card shop? It's actually my basement. So the white sheet in the back covers up the attractive concrete wall. But unfortunately, I do not have a ton of set design experience. So if anybody is artistic enough and lives nearby, then definitely let me know. Yeah, the set is one of the things that I'm kind of like the most embarrassed about. My personal philosophy is like I want to focus most of my attention on like the stuff that I'm good at and not the stuff that I can't really do that well. So that's the reason why I don't have like a logo or a real video editing stuff. Mostly I just know about Magic rules. So yeah, I really do wish I had a like better, more attractive set that I could use. But if you look at the surrounding part for the set, I think it's really great. The part that's off camera, but you'll have to take my word for that one, unfortunately. So yeah, let's see here. First chaser was Darksteel Colossus. Oh yeah, traded that to a fully functioning Affinity. Yeah, those were the days back. So like nowadays, I feel like trading is like a shadow of what it used to be. Like back in the good old days, I got like a fully functional Tooth and Nail deck. Just from trading. I'm like hardly ever putting any money into anything. Then we got the smartphones, and once that happened, it was like the death knell for trading because nobody nobody would ever trade a card again knowing that their pile was like 21 cents less expensive than the other guy's pile. And it was really sad, but like it was once that happened, like trading basically died. It used to be that there were trade binders at every game store F&M, but now there just isn't. Let's see. How do I feel about legacy weeklies that allow proxies of reserve list cards? Okay, I will say this, and I own 40 dual lands, right? Like I own 4 or more of every dual land. And I would light all of my dual lands on fire if Wizards committed to reducing the price of those cards to something that was affordable. Right? I would love, like when I bought all those legacy cards, I wasn't buying them because I was confused that they were an investment product, right? Like if I wanted to invest my money in something, I would do it in something that has consumer protections and government agencies working to stop people from manipulating the market. I personally would love if more places did, proxies legal, not even reserve list proxies. Like there's stuff that's not on the reserve list, but it's still like outrageously expensive. So, there was a legacy event that I did a short while ago, like about a year ago maybe. And it was like 10 proxies legacy. And I feel like that's a reasonable number. If you didn't want to police which ones were the proxies and which ones weren't, you could make it all proxies. But I would love to see more of that. I would personally love to see more of that. My house is on fire. Which booster boxes do I save? Boxes, plural? Oh, geez. Yeah. So I actually own a Shadowmoor and 2 Eventide booster boxes. So it's probably going to have to be like one of them. Those are like probably the most expensive boxes. Right up there with Modern Masters. I don't know if that one's more expensive, but the Shadowmoor ones is like holdovers from when I used to organize drafts when I was in college. So I'd probably have to go with those. Let's see. Oh, that's clever with the Basalt Monolith. Yeah, it's probably true. There's a couple of other cards that have like kind of jokes or in jokes maybe. Like the one card Void Winnower, I believe, has a nod to like, yes, you can't even. That was printed back when that was a meme, and now I think it's super duper cringy that that's actually a line of text that's in the Gatherer. But they do have stuff like that in there from time to time. Is there any harm in allowing proxies if the event is sanctioned? And only if you are a person who owns, or has an interest in the price of reserve list cards. That's my personal opinion. I do not have any, power over the reserve list. Let's see. So a lot of fun rules questions. I encourage anybody who has any rules questions to go to judgingftw.com and fill out the rules suggestion form, because there is now a suggestion form. Oh, I think that's also really nice because like before, if somebody like wanted to submit a rules question to Judging for the Win, and they didn't want their name to be associated with that question, there wasn't like a super great way to do that before, but now there is. If you use that form, you can just leave the part where it asks where you want to be credited. You can just leave that blank, and it works perfectly. Trading online has been a better experience than in-person trading. I don't know. Like, I've got to say, like, I was super duper shy when I first got into playing Magic. I still kind of am. But like really, really bad when I was first starting to play Magic. And like trading with other people was like one of the only things that like got me to like actually, actually talk to other people. So I think that losing that is kind of a shame. Let's see. Here is one. How much of the rules do I know versus how much do I look up? And this is actually a really good question. So as far as like how much I know, it's a lot. I would say that I've probably read the CR cover to cover at least 3 times. I think that there is not a single part of the CR, and I'm excluding the like alternate formats and the like non-sanctioned stuff when I talk about that. But I would personally say I've read the CR cover to cover at least 3 times. And like way more than that for like the stuff that comes up more often. With that being said, It's it's kind of weird because like almost every time that I make an episode, I actually like physically go in the CR and look up the relevant rules anyway. Like unless it's like a really like straightforward known Judge Vault question, or like a really straightforward question that like is pretty doesn't really have any tricks or anything in it. I'm generally going to the CR for citations, and I do like get those every time. So the actual text of the comprehensive rules I know pretty well, but I still look it up because I really think that for me, like my like superpower isn't that I know the CR really well. It's my my ability to research and get answers. And I really do think that like as far as the program goes, like I'm like one of many people who has like pretty high level comprehensive rules knowledge, but I am probably one of the best researchers there is out there. Let's see, what region am I in? I'm in Indiana, which is the Midwestern United States. Interested in becoming a judge, or at least being qualified to judge, to make my Commander games run smoother. What is the best way to accomplish this? Okay, so there's actually like two questions that I saw there. If you're interested in becoming a judge, I did a video about that. It was my patron video a while back. If you search for like judging FTW, how to become a judge, it'll come right up. So that's my advice for if you'd like to become a certified judge. That being said, if all you want to do is help your commander pods run smoother, you do not need to be a certified judge at all. And like honestly, if you're not interested in like going to tournaments and like judging like Magic tournaments, I probably wouldn't recommend it. So if you want to help your commander games run smoother, then the idea would be you want to improve your rules knowledge and your understanding of rules stuff. And that is something that is, be sure to watch Judging for the Win's daily rulings every time they're coming out. But like, I assume you're probably already like doing that, or know that I would have recommended to do that if you're watching this. But some other resources that I can recommend, if you go on the Judge Academy website, judgeacademy.com, then you can go through their modules, and those are a pretty good resource. From what I saw the last time, which obviously I don't check those super often because I'm kind of past the point where I need to do stuff like that. But like those are a pretty good resource for if you're learning. Cranial Insertion is the other one that I like plug every time with no hesitation. Cranialinsertion.com is a weekly rules column, and they have articles going up every week for a long time, like decades long. So those guys do an amazing job, and that's in fact where I learned a lot of my foundational rules knowledge is from that site. I've been following it ever since it was a weekly column on MTG Salvation. So those of you who are like that old school that you know what I'm talking about, yeah, that's me. Haven't read the complete CR since 2014. Yeah, well, there you go. How often do I judge events? Actually, relatively frequently. It used to be basically every weekend. Since the COVID slowed down, that slowed down quite a bit since COVID. I still do it every chance I get, which is like, relatively frequent. I would say that I'm traveling to a event like at least once a month, probably a couple of times a month. If you throw in like digital judge conferences, it's probably like a few times a month is my average. I love going to bigger events. When SCG was running their SCG tour, that was like a big thing that I would look forward to, is like every quarter they would come out with their thing, and I'd be like, okay, we're going to Columbus this weekend, Indy this weekend, Michigan this weekend, maybe a couple of Ohio's. So yeah, there you go. Any benefits to becoming level 2 or level 3? Just ability to judge bigger events. Yeah, basically, like the real benefit that you get is like you can get more opportunities as a level 2 or a level 3, right? Like if somebody wanted to work in a Grand Prix, back when Grand Prix were a thing, if you wanted to work on the floor of a Grand Prix, you basically were going to need to be a level 2. SCG circuit was, similar. you could be like a level 1, but you probably weren't going to be working on the main event. They generally didn't do stuff like that. If you want to go into leadership roles, that's really where the like level 2 and level 3 really becomes like a requirement. But really, you get more opportunities as far as staffing goes too. I don't think it's right, but like that's pretty much how it works. I'd do it if I got paid in booster box. Well, that's very much a thing. So someone is asking if you get cards for free, and all those cards back there is stuff that I got from judging. So I wouldn't say that I got them for free, but because like I had to like go to a tournament and be a judge at that tournament all day. But in the sense that I didn't pay anything for them, well, no, except for the gas money to get down there. How do I feel about another judge starting their own channel with a style similar to yours? Hey, you know what? My personal opinion is go for it. Like here's another plug here. This is a Commander channel. If you like my content, there's another channel out there called This is a Commander channel. Does some very similar sorts of things. I would recommend checking it out because there's a series that I think that the person running that channel does. It's called Tough Rulings and Complex Interactions, and very similar to the daily rulings that I do. So the reason that I started this channel is because one of the big reasons anyway is because I think that this is the sort of resource that I wish I had to learn more about the rules and policy. And so more people doing that, well, that's great as far as I'm concerned. Favorite modern deck, Splinter Twin. Unban Twin, please. Wizards, please. Unban Twin. Shouldn't have ever been banned in the first place. No reason to ban it, and certainly no reason it should be banned now that the power creep in that format is like so ridiculous. As far as like actual modern decks, blue white was, but then like they started going towards the Yorion shells, and I don't really like that. Hammer Time was, and then they banned Luris, so that like kind of took the wind out of my sails on that one. I would probably go with like the blue red deck in modern right now. Have I ever had to travel overseas to judge? Yes indeed. So I have judged in a foreign country a few times. First time was okay. So the first time that I judged overseas was when I studied abroad in Shanghai, China, back when I was in college. Now this is before I was a certified judge, but even back then, a lot of the people that I played with, like FNMs, a lot of those people recognized that I was like a really high-level rules knowledge person. So they would come to me with rules questions when they had stuff come up. So that's, in my opinion, the first place that I judged overseas. After that, I judged in, let's see, I think Sao Paulo would be the next one. So I went to Sao Paulo, Brazil, and I did a GP there. Technically, I wouldn't say that's overseas because I did have to go over the like Caribbean Sea to get there, but that's it is a different continent, so I suppose it probably should count. If you want to count Toronto, I've been to Toronto, which is like not really even that different from being in the U.S. And then I also did in Amsterdam. I went to GP Amsterdam. So yeah, a few times. What level judge am I? I'm level 2. Let's see here. Can you turn Morph up in response to a split second spell? Yes, because that's a special action. It's not activating an ability. Completely different. Do I remember my first appeal? Not distinctly. I do remember the first time that I got appealed and I was incorrect. It's only happened a handful of times in my judge career where I like gave a wrong ruling, but it does happen to everybody, so everybody includes me. But I do remember that moment distinctly. It was a game where I was like I could have swore, and I did the thing too, like that I recommend to everybody to stop this from happening, where you read the card, and I read the card, and then I gave my ruling, and then the guy appealed it. And so I went to the head judge. I'm like, okay, here's this ruling that I just gave. And he's like, did you read the card? I'm like, yeah. And he like pulls it up on his phone. And he's like, it clearly says on the card, and then he points out like some sentence that like indicates that the answer is the opposite of what I said. I'm like, okay, that card changed its wording in between when I read it and when you just did that. Like, I couldn't believe it. But yeah, I don't know how that happened. Unban Deathrite, that's a tough one. I think that Deathrite would do a lot to like work against the Ragavan. But I'm kind of biased because I like the games where like it grinds out and you get value with Deathrite better than I like the games where you slowly get strangled by a first turn Ragavan. So you know that I would like to unban Deathrite. Certainly, I'd like it in Legacy Wizards, please. In fact, there's a photo of me with Tarmocat cosplayer that I took at Gen Con, and she was in cosplay as Deathrite Shaman with a sign that said "Unban me" taped to her back. So you can find that picture on my blog, I think. Any interactions between cards that can result in rule questions that can't be answered by the comprehensive rules? Yeah, there's probably a few of them. Even though they like try and be comprehensive, there's times when it's like ambiguous, and there's times where stuff isn't like super duper well defined. I can't think of any examples right off the bat, but like I'm sure there probably is a few. Certainly like corner casey stuff, not stuff that like could actually happen in a real Magic tournament. See, Aspiring Spike did a mock tournament with a modern take on Splinter Twin, and it perhaps did a little too well. Oh, come on. You can't tell me that Splinter Twin is a better deck. Like, now that they have, like, you know, actually losing Path to Exile, because, like, almost all the decks play the sorcery speed one now that they have that, the Converge one. So that actually probably helps tilt the favor towards Splinter Twin. But I'm pretty sure that like if it was actually a deck, people would like change the metagame and it would go towards like getting more hostile. Let's see. When people ask how to become more knowledgeable in the rules, my main advice is to read the CR and learn the stack and priority work. See, I'm kind of against the idea of like reading the comprehensive rules. Like if you're like already know how to play the game, I think the next step shouldn't be diving right into the CR. I think the next step should be like you know, so learning a little bit more about the structure before you get into the comprehensive rules. Because if you learn the structure first, it makes it a lot easier to read the comprehensive rules and remember what you read. Whereas if you just go in blind and try to use that to learn how everything is structured, I think it's a lot harder than it has to be. Stack and priority work, definitely. 100% on board with that one, though. Any blatant cheats that I've had to call it? No. I'm very thankful that I've never had to, do anything. Although I would rather it be like a blatant cheat where like it was like really obvious than what actually is way more common, which is like somebody cheats, but you're not sure whether they like made an honest mistake and the mistake ended up benefiting them, or whether they intentionally tried to break the rules and it ended up benefiting them. That's the one that's like really hard, and like as a judge, it's very difficult to make that kind of determination, even if you've done it a bunch of times before. So if it's like a blatant cheat, like somebody draws a card randomly, or like they untap 2 lands when they don't think someone's looking, like those are great because you can just be like, bro, what'd you just do? Like, there's no way you could possibly convince me that you thought that you were allowed to draw a card, just while your opponent was thinking about something, right? Like, that's easy. It sucks that you have to DQ somebody for stuff like that. But, like, what sucks even more is, okay, after, like, thinking about it and talking to a bunch of people and thinking about it some more, I'm more confident than I am not that the thing you just did was against the rules and you know it. So you're getting DQ'd for that. Let's see. Just back from my first mock tournament ever, a friend and I drove up and practiced judging. We're both alright. Oh, that's awesome. That's so awesome. Yeah. If you want to like learn more about the rules, getting somebody else to help you out. Getting a SNC box for the collection soon. Hey, if you're interested in mailing me one, you can I'll give you my address. Just send me a email. I have an event coming up in a couple of months. So, like I said, with COVID, it's been a lot harder to get events. So that's kind of a barrier. But I'm still committed to keeping the collection going. Favorite card mechanic, probably cycling. Favorite flavor fail. I'm gonna have to go with the Emrakul versus 15 flying squirrel tokens. It's a real classic. If you wanted to go a little bit, a little bit less obvious, I would say probably it would be like walls, like actual wall cards getting to have equipment. That would be another one. Favorite Grizzly Bear is the original. That's why I use it for all my examples. Layers is the biggest thing to trip me up. You know, you're not alone. You're definitely not alone with that one. Layers, I think, is like the biggest boogeyman. But the good news is that, like, after you memorize what the 7 layers are and what order they go in, any rules question that you're likely to see in a tournament is either one that's like so well known that you already know the answer to it, or B, like really obvious if you understand how the system works. The stuff that's like really difficult layers questions is stuff that like generally isn't going to come up in a real Magic game. Let's see. If the metagame has to fully shift to account for a deck, doesn't that mean it's too powerful? Well, no, because like every time they print a new powerful card, the metagame shifts, right? Like if they printed some card that was really good for Tron in the next set, you know, that would probably make more people interested in playing Tron. But like it doesn't necessarily mean that because now there's more people playing Tron and the market share of Tron has gone from like 3% to like 8%. That doesn't mean that Tron's overpowered now. There's decks that have more than 8% market share now. The fact that Tron was able to get up to that same level doesn't mean that it's overpowered, I don't think. How hard is it to prove slow play? There's no such thing as proving slow play. If you're a judge and you think somebody's guilty of slow play, then that means that they slow played. Simple as that. The idea that you have to prove that somebody is slow played, that's, you know, that I think is kind of a common fallacy. The real problem is that the definition of slow play is so subjective that it's very difficult to like have two judges look at the same situation and get them to both like pull the trigger at the exact same time or close to the same time. Yeah, there is a slow play presentation on the channel, so you can check that out if there's if you'd like more information. Let's see. Is it okay if I had my smartwatch on? Yeah, nobody's ever asked me that before, but it is something that like comes up from time to time in like judge chats. Fortunately, they changed the electronic device policy now to be a lot more lenient towards stuff like that. So it's not as big of a deal as it used to be. Yeah, you know, you can hang swords on your walls. That's true. However, I would bet that those walls did not get any more powerful after the swords were attached to them. If a smart enemy was attacking them, then they would probably just attack a different part of the wall. Dependencies are way more rare than I thought. Yeah, it does not come up super often. And again, in one of those, if it does come up, it's generally in one of a like handful of cases that if you like have seen it before, you can do it. Proving stalling is a real thing, yes, and that is pretty difficult. AK not nearly enough for this channel. Thank you. What card in your mind 100% deserved a ban? Oko, 1,000,000% Oko. Like that card, and right up there with that is like Ragavan. In the like we didn't play test this at all category. Like literally anybody could have looked at that card and told them it was like way too good to see play in any format other than standard and limited. Right? But that's the problem. The problem is that like when Wizards was printing that card, they didn't think about any format other than standard and limited. So that's my short rant. Well, one of the short rants for the day. Yeah, Oko more like Broco. Yeah, exactly right. Exactly. I honestly like every single one of those loyalty abilities could have had like one loyalty counter taken away from it, and that would have been like what it actually should have been at. Are you allowed to sideboard change your deck after pairings for the next round are announced? In limited events, yes and no. If you're in a limited event with deck lists, then you have to present the same 40 cards at the beginning of every game one. However, if you have a continuous construction limited event, then you would be able to do stuff like that. Should Coco have been banned in standard? Oh, geez. That's a long time ago. And I wasn't like super big into standard at that point. The way I remember it, the Coco decks weren't like super OP in that era. It was more like the Siege Rhino decks were like where most of the problems were. So I don't think that I would have said that. Am I the only one that liked damage? No, I like damage on the stack too. But as far as as far as us old fogies go, I feel like probably that's the minority. Favorite rules change. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. One day, I hope that I will be responsible for a rules change, and that will be my favorite one. But until that time happens, I'm gonna probably have to say the one where they made it so that like if I mulligan, then my opponent can mulligan right away. Like, it used to be that I mulliganed to 6, and then I mulliganed to 5, and then I mulliganed to 4, and then I said keep, and only then did my opponent get to mulligan. So obviously that made the mulliganing process a lot longer. So I like the rules change where they made it so that the first one is simultaneous now, and the second one. Best format's been left to raw, easy legacy. Easy one. My stand regarding Judge Academy, I don't know, that's kind of a broad question. Like, I feel like there wouldn't be an official organized judge program if Judge Academy didn't exist. But I also, like, if I was a, there's like some stuff that you need an official organized judge program in order to do. And one of the big ones for that is like, so that there's a way that judges can network and find events. And if there was a better way than Judge Academy to do that, then I haven't found it. So they definitely have their place. But that being said, I'm sure that, it would be very difficult to get all the judges in the program to agree on like everything they thought Judge Academy should be doing, and get everybody on board with a plan for that. So I think they're doing the best they can with what they've got. Let's see here. Is there a way to make overall card diversity change in Modern? People say the metagame is good, but the average card quality is way higher than it used to be, and now it feels like Modern Horizons construct. Yeah, great question. There's a way to make more, like Modern has a ton of playable decks, so I don't feel like the diversity is a real problem. The average card quality is way higher than it used to be, but like that's a problem that's going to happen in any like non-rotating format, right? Because like as more cards get printed, there's going to be more like good cards. Like the best version of each type of effect is just going to get better and better. So I will say that Modern Horizons definitely like accelerated that process by a lot. But like that was going to happen anytime. Plume Veil lost a lot of power after yeah, that's very true. Will they ever put split second attached to an activated or triggered ability? Maybe, could be. Favorite format to judge? Have I done it? I've never done any Pauper events. I'm doing my first Pioneer event in a couple of weeks, and that's going to be kind of exciting for me. I'd still say Legacy is my favorite format to judge, just because it's like the hype factor, and I like playing it. And like, unlike some people are like super intimidated by Legacy because it's like, oh man, it's cards back from the old days, and you're gonna have like more rules questions. And especially, if you don't get to judge Legacy as much, so you can't memorize the answers to all the rules questions. Like with Modern and Standard, once you've heard once you've judged enough Modern and Standard events, you like can like know what almost all the rules interactions are. And that's true obviously for Legacy, but it's a lot harder to get to that point with Legacy because there's more decks in the format and there's less Legacy tournaments. And so you have to have a higher level of rules knowledge and a higher level of confidence in your ability to answer rules questions, which obviously I have because that's literally like what this whole channel is about. But for some other judges, that kind of pressure isn't really for them. Some opinion on the Modern ban list. Yeah, that's always a hot button issue. Do I play any EDH? Not a whole lot. Usually I have to borrow decks, unfortunately. There is like some ideas that I've had for decks. So there is that. Have a rules question I understand. If you can't answer it here. Yeah, just send me an email to dave@judgingftw.com if you have a rules question. Favorite theme of Cube? So I actually played a lot of Cube on Magic Online a while ago, and I liked the original ones. I liked the vintage Cube because you got to do broken stuff, but I actually like kind of didn't like it because it seemed like the matches were mostly luck based, like who got their degenerate combo first, kind of a thing. So I think Legacy Cube was my favorite one because that one was like broken, but it was also fair. So like whatever the first couple of iterations of the Legacy Cube on Magic Online was, that's what I would say. What would I consider to be the most impactful ban in recent years? Ooh boy. Okay, so I'm actually gonna say Rampaging Ferocidon. And the reason is because that ban like started a real kind of avalanche. Like for a long time, and I mean a long time in Magic's history. Like if a card got banned in Standard, that means that someone messed up. They messed up big. There was a whole Standard format where Jace the Mind Sculptor, Stoneblade was the best deck in Standard. Period. Nobody was arguing with that. It was like, what's the best version of this deck, or what's the best what's the best like last 10 cards after we've got our first 65 cards set in stone, right? That's what people were arguing, and that card didn't get banned until 3 months before it was going to rotate, right? Before that, the most recent ban was way back in Maraudon Block, where they banned Affinity. And again, Affinity was the same thing. It was everywhere. Every tournament was like Affinity, big step down, tooth and nail, small step down, big red. That was the tournament scene back in those days. And so, like, somewhere around Kaladesh Block is when someone decided, hey, we need to ban a lot more cards in Standard. And they did. They started banning cards like left and right. It was crazy. And the Rampaging Ferocidon, in my opinion, was the one that really set the seal on, like, yeah, we're banning cards that are bad. Because, you know, we're even banning cards that are bad just to try to get, and in my opinion, that was very misguided. In my opinion, it was based on like trying to get more format, like diversity in Standard. But here's the thing. You're not going to have as many decks in Standard as you have in Modern, because there's like 20 times more cards in Modern than there is in Standard. So there's no way you're going to get the same deck diversity unless you stop printing cards that are like, you know, limited chaff. Which you could do, but like, you know, that was I think the idea is that they're trying to like get more format diversity. I don't think it worked, but they're still like banning a lot more cards in Standard than they ever have before. Deck archetype diversity, yeah, I mean like maybe. Favorite Magic memory. So once upon a time, I was judging this tournament. This is like one of my favorite stories. So I was judging this tournament, and I saw this player who was using some cards from his sideboard as creature tokens. Now, as judges, we don't like to see stuff like that, right? Because it's very easy for you to like have that creature token die and then put the card in your graveyard, and then now you have a card from your sideboard in your graveyard. But that's not the sort of thing that we like to see as judges for that sort of reason. So, but it's also like bad customer service to like go up to somebody and be like, okay, your token is illegal. I need you to stop that. Right? Like nobody wants to have a judge go up to them and say something like that. Right? Like that, just common sense. Right? But So what I did is I went to the scorekeeper and I got like a piece of printer paper, and then I like scribbled a really crappily drawn picture on there, and like wrote like the stats for the token on there, and I gave it to the guy. I was like, okay, so I see you're using like some face down cards from your sideboard. This is why we don't like seeing stuff like that. Here you go. If you wanted to use this instead, that would make me feel better. So he did, and that was great. And so months later, at another tournament, completely different city, I like walk by and I see something that catches my eye, and I kid you not, it's that same crappily drawn token. The player actually like got like a tips and tricks card and like a sleeve, and he put that token in there, and I was like, wow, that was one of my favorite memories as a judge. Let's see. Favorite silver bordered cards. Ooh boy. So I guess I can't say the basic lands because those aren't silver bordered. Is Steamflogger Boss silver bordered? Like when they reprinted it? Maybe that. Or like Giant Fan. Giant Fan is one of my favorite silver bordered cards. Yes, it was actually banned in Standard. Rampaging Ferocidon. Favorite format, Legacy. Favorite deck / card in the format, Brainstorm, because there's a lot of decisions and they all matter. And that's the reason why like Legacy is my favorite format is because there's a lot of decisions and they all matter. And that's the reason why I like Blue X Delver and Stoneblade, because there's a lot of decisions and they all matter. And that's why I like Brainstorm, because there's a lot of decisions and they all matter. I'm more of a Spike player. So like for me, that's what makes Magic great, is that it's a really compelling strategy game. Banning Luris and Vintage is yeah, it could be. Banning all the conspiracies was another good one, I think. Favorite TV shows. Ooh, that's a good one. I haven't thought about this. I don't actually watch a ton of TV. Like most of the time I like if I have spare time I'm unwinding. I don't have like cable. I don't have like Netflix or any of the other like kind of subscriptions. But there is like TV shows that I watch that I've enjoyed. The Arcane show from League of Legends I think would be like one of the most recent ones that I really liked. Amazing Race and Survivor are like two of my favorite like reality shows, if you want to call it that, game shows. I do watch like Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy from time to time. You notice that there's not like Breaking Bad. I watched Breaking Bad. That was a good show. I'm trying to think if there's any other like real standouts that I want to make sure I touch on. Yu-Gi-Oh! I think everybody who like plays Magic, I think a lot of them have watched Yu-Gi-Oh! I wouldn't say it's like a good show, but it's one that I like remember from when I watched it. Let's see. What English words have I learned from a Magic card? Haruspex is one that I just recently learned was like a real English word and not a made-up one. Ashling from Ashling Leprechaun, same thing. If you're looking that word up, it's AISLING, not pronounced nearly the same way as what it's spelled. It's actually kind of funny. When I was in high school, I brought some Magic cards in to show my English teacher, because in English class we had like vocabulary. Like every week we were assigned like a list of vocabulary words, and we would get quizzed on them at the end of the week. So I brought in like a handful of Magic cards that used like words that were on our vocabulary list in like the flavor text or the name or something. So it's for sure one of the things I appreciate about Magic is that they have stuff like that. Signed warning cards. Oh, that's a good one. Let's see, have I seen the Magic Rules Iceberg? I've seen like varying ones. Like I'm not sure if there's any specific Magic Rules Iceberg like from any specific content creator you're referencing, but I've seen a few of them and I've watched through a few of them. Have I judged any silver bordered events? No. I've judged at Gen Con a few times where they had like silver border events, but I've never like actually been staffed on any of them. Kind of fun. Yeah, Garfield PhD, that's another good one. Drink of choice, water. Actually, this not a lie. I actually like if you were to like get how much like if you were to like make a pie chart of beverages that Judge Dave drinks, like 90% of that pie chart, and that's not an exaggeration, would be water. Let's see, Avatar. Oh yeah, I've watched Avatar is a good show. The Last Airbender, not the movie. Don't worry, don't come out and like try and dox me. I don't like the Avatar live action movie. But yeah, that's a good one. BattleBots, another good show. That's what got me into engineering. Next week I'm doing a presentation and judge conference about teamwork. What is one bullet point that you would highlight? Okay, the judge program does a lot of emphasis on how to become a good leader, and that's great, because especially for me, and I'm not sure if other people feel the same way, but I feel like a lot of people in their like normal life don't have a ton of experience acting as a leader or in a leadership role. So it's definitely a good thing to get people like accustomed to becoming a leader. Something I see almost never is how to become a good follower. Like if you're on a team of like 5 judges, one of them is the team lead, the other ones aren't. And being a good not leader is an important skill to have for teamwork, and it's also something that I don't see covered a whole lot. So I think that would be a good point to touch on. Let's see, hydrate or dehydrate. Can you erase black borders and make them white for tournament play? Yes. There is a specific set of guidelines for altars in Magic the Gathering. And like changing black borders into white borders does not go against any of the stuff on that list. Who would I cosplay if I cosplayed? I've thought about this. One day I might. There is one day a non-zero chance that I might like go to a convention and cosplay, but it's certainly a ways away. Jin from League of Legends is one of the characters that I think would be fun to cosplay as. I also have a friend that I play with occasionally, and he is like a Leona main. I'm a bot laner, right? So, and I play mostly Misfortune. So I've thought about that. Like maybe one day, like I'll go to a convention with this friend, and we'll do like a gender bent cosplay of like Mr. Fortune and Leon. So yeah, that's another idea that I had. So this is another question that someone else sent in earlier is. Would I be for playing League of Legends with people? And yes, if you are interested in playing a game of League of Legends with Judge Dave, send me an email, dave@judgingftw.com, and we'll set something up. I gotta warn you, I'm not very good. We're talking like maybe like high silver level player, so like actually terrible. But yeah, if you can commit to not flaming me, then yeah, I'd be up for it. Let's see. Favorite ruling: the interaction with the cards, the beauty, or something else. Okay, so I'm going to offer two answers to this question. One of them is Blood Moon plus Urza Saga, because that ruling got me like thousands of subs. Pretty much anything with Urza Saga has like tons of people clicking on it. So I don't know what it is with that card, but my gosh, that card is great. So that's like kind of a superficial one. The actual favorite ruling that I have would be Pure Lace plus Clone plus Fanatic of Mogus, and I did a whole video about this, but it is a continuous effects question, and the continuous effects all take place in the the color changing layer. If you want to look up the video, you can see exactly how it works, but artistically, I think that's the best ruling that I've ever written. And Blood Moon plus Conversion is my favorite rules question that I've ever written in terms of like the actual question. I think that is among the most unintuitive rulings that I've ever seen, and it completely opened my eyes to a new aspect of how dependencies work. So I'm very proud to say that I'm the person to have written that. Let's see. For all things leadership, yeah, I feel like I should read more books about that sort of stuff. Do I collect buy secret lair products? Absolutely not. No. I'm encouraging everybody to please stop buying secret lair products. There's a Saga of Blood Moon, a long time to get the fun. Yeah, someone please type Dave@judgingftw.com. That is the email link. Proper rulings for Season of the Witch, maybe, probably not. Thing is, in order to get Wizards to release official rulings, it needs to be something that comes up in a public setting. People complaining about why some random card from 20 years ago doesn't have proper rulings is not something that Wizards is going to spend money on. Well, there's a couple reasons why I don't like Secret Lair, right? First one, and biggest, most important one, is there was a time where I knew every card that was playable, and I mean fringe playable even, in like Modern and Legacy by artwork. Like, I could look at a card from 3 feet away, which is how far you are away as a judge, like 3 to 5 feet away, and I could identify what that card was for every card. Every period card, period in, period the, period format, period. Then they printed the expeditions. And there was like a bunch of new artworks that all looked the same. And I was like, okay, I can power through, right? I can do it. Okay? Then they printed the Yu-Gi-Oh cards in Amonkhet. Then they printed the masterpieces. And I'm like, okay, I can still power through this. I can still do it. Then they came out with Secret Lair, and all that went out completely out the window. And I had to resign myself to the fact that I would never be in a position where I could recognize all the cards that people were playing based on their artworks ever again, because it is not feasible. So yeah, I really hate the Secret Lairs for that reason. I hate the Secret Lairs from the, like, you know, the idea of it's literally Wizards printing money. Like, it's about as close as you could get to Wizards just selling the cards to themselves, which kind of opens up another idea, like, hey, you know, why don't they just sell us, you know, cards that are playable? Why don't we just do that? So yeah, there you go. Did you start in Tarkir? That's why the boxes go. Yeah, that's the first that I was judging for. Secret Lair cashing in on the golden age of eBay art sellers. Mainly only bought for cubes and commanders. Now they're mass produced, officially licensed art. Yeah. So if I ever become a billionaire, I'm gonna have my own Magic the Gathering tournament series, and it's gonna be like modern or legacy format, but only cards that were playable in standard are legal. And that means no Ragavan, because Ragavan was never in standard. And no Secret Lair cards, because those physical cards were never legal in standard. Counterspell can stay, because that was legal in standard. But that was one of the ideas that I had. Let's see here. When will I open the boxes that I've earned? And this is actually kind of a like funny / sad story. I can't really say whether I think it's a funny or a sad story. But so when I first started judging, I thought to myself, okay, I'll like take some boxes, and then, you know, maybe I'll like open them up for cards, right? I gradually started playing less and less. So the plan kind of morphed into, okay, what if we'll like save some boxes, and then I'll like open them up with my friends, right? Because I don't need to open the cards right away, but maybe it'd be fun to have like a like, you know, Ether Revolt draft or something. Yeah. With all my friends. So I get like 8 friends together, and then we do one of those. Then we had another setback, which is that like almost all my friends that I play Magic with stopped playing Magic. So now I have no idea when I'm going to open them. Absolutely none. Like, I could sell them, but the thing is they're worth like 20% more every year. So there's no reason to sell them either. So yeah, I would say that's like kind of yeah, it's kind of a sad story. All my plans for opening the booster boxes, you know, kind of fell by the wayside. Maybe one day I'll like start an alternate channel and do some box breaks or something. I don't know. Keep them as my retirement fund. Yeah, you know, I try not to think about that. Like how much money I have like tied up in booster boxes. Fortunately for me, I live by myself. So there's, you know, I don't even like have any family members or pets to like, you know, tell me to get rid of all these stupid boxes of Magic cards. But yeah. When you go into judging, did you realize that you are also getting into teaching, educating? So that's a great question. That is a great question. And I would say no. I did not, like, when I first started judging, my game plan was I was going to go to tournaments, like specifically 2-day tournaments. And I was going to judge on one day and like play on the other day. And then that way I could go to tournaments with my friends, because, you know, my friends didn't have a legacy deck and I didn't care about standard. So this way I could go to my tournaments with my friends, and we could both do something, you know, both days. Then we got to like actually judging, And I got like deeper and deeper into it. And I thought to myself, I've always been like interested in the rules. I've always been like, kind of a big time rules guy. But it's not like I see a bunch of questions people have about this stuff. And so I started working on like some material that like helped me out, or like some stuff that would have helped me out if I would have had it available when I was learning this stuff. I really struck it big time with the new set digests, which, if you don't know what those are, when I was running my blog, I had articles that I posted whenever a new set came out, and it was like a big long article that like highlighted all the different stuff that was new in the set and how it interacted with. I wrote a bunch of different rules questions about everything that was new with the rules changes, the policy document changes, the new cards, the new mechanics, how they worked with old cards, how they worked with this and that. And that's where like I really started like having the blog take off when I was doing that. And that was really great. And it was an amazing feeling because I had judges all over the world telling me that my new set digest and like the other stuff that I was publishing on my blog was helping them out. So that's when I really like when it really started clicking for me. And it's kind of ironic because I never really considered myself a writer, right? Like I never did. But like at the same time, after a while of doing it, you can do anything. So I moved on to the YouTube videos because I felt like that would be like less of a time investment. Obviously, it's not. It's actually like I spent way more time on the YouTube channel than I ever did writing blogs. For about 5 years, like a little over 5 years, I was putting out one article every month on my blog. And if I could go back to that amount of content creation, wow, I'd have so much free time. Where's the SNC draft box? Yeah, go ahead and send me an email, dave@judgingftw.com. I'll give you my address. You can send one in. Other than that, I'll have to wait until the next event that I judge for a local store. Favorite deck in any format, current or historical. And this is going to probably, get the unsubscribe button ready, everybody. I liked Caw-Blade when it was in Standard. That was my favorite Standard format, was Caw-Blade. And it was because I didn't have to worry about whether I was playing the best deck. I knew I was playing the best deck. And it was a really interesting mirror match. There was a lot of decision making. There, you hardly ever lost to somebody who was playing bad when that Standard format was the thing. And that's like a big thing for me. I come from like the Super Smash Bros. Melee community, and like if you're not familiar with that, if you had like the number 8 player in the world beat the number 7 player in the world, then people are going to be asking like, what happened, bro? Did your girlfriend break up with you? Did you like stay out late last night? Did you like, are you not eating good? Like what's going on? Whereas in Magic, it doesn't even make sense to talk about like who the like 7th and 8th best players is. So like the formats that have the most like down to the player skill, and I think that Standard format was the pinnacle of that. So that was my favorite. Have I ever thought about doing engineering part-time or do more content create? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. My channel would need to be like 100 times bigger than what it is now in order for me to consider doing something like that. See, here's the thing. If I like go to content creation full time as my like primary income stream, that's what I think the income is going to look like. I would take the sure thing, 100% of the time, as opposed to something like this, and especially like in a arena like Magic the Gathering, where like you're always one misstep away from this personality, it turns out they're a terrible person, so everybody's gonna have to like cancel all their subscriptions and cancel their Patreons and stuff. I'm afraid that as soon as I tried to make it my full-time job, my popularity would like, maybe it would be like I accidentally say something wrong, or maybe Magic like just gradually gets less popular. But I'm sure that as soon as I tried to go full-time with making Magic content, my like numbers would stop going up, and it'd start being like, up. Well, now it's like I'm in the same spot as before, except I don't have like, X years worth of experience in like a normal person job. So yeah, I don't think so. I would have to like have a lot more. Like I would probably have to be making like 1.5 times as much money as I was making in my like normal day job to consider like trying to make content creation my full. Like I have thought about like starting my own business, and that I think the barrier would be a lot lower, because that I think is a lot more plausible that I could be a better businessman than someone else who had a similar idea. But the content creation space is just so saturated. It's very difficult to be like the best version of like any particular niche. Favorite player in Melee? Oh, that's a tough one. Probably Armada. I think that's the only one of the like big name players that I've actually ever like seen or played against. Fun fact: I went to college with Cunning Kitsune and NJ's Finest. So that there was a few others that I went to college with also. For the Magic players, I went to college with Cedric Phillips. Actual true story. I played FNM with him a few times. So that's a fact. Melee main Marth, because it's the best character that has like a low enough skill ceiling that I could potentially do. Completion is inevitable. Do a collab. Yes, great idea. I've done a few collabs before on this channel. I did one with I did a couple of them with Zbex, and she's great to work with. I loved working with her. So definitely check those videos out if you haven't already. Definitely check out the website and send me an email if you're interested in doing a collab, because I do like doing those. There's a couple other ones that I won't say anything about yet because they're still in the works. But there are some other ones. Do I play any other fighting games? Not really. I've given up on like pretty much all games that require reflexes and precise button inputs, because that's so. Back when I was playing Melee, I literally, like, if I took a day off of practicing, I would have to spend like the next day, like my skills would decay so much that I would have to spend the next day just like practicing super hard just to get back to the point where I was. Right. So that was where I actually like knew that I needed to pull the plug, because so yeah, like the amount of practice you need to do, especially nowadays, to be like actually good level at a lot of fighting games is pretty high. I don't think I could do it. But that's fine, right? Like ping pong. I used to, when I was in high school, I played ping pong. And I gave that one up because I kept messing with my shoulder. Have I tried any other TCGs? If so, what did I think of them? Okay, so that's an interesting question. I did play Pokemon. That was the first TCG I played back in like when I was in like 4th grade. I played Pokemon because that's, that was when Pokemon was a big thing, right? Like that was the first wave of Pokemon. I know how to play Yu-Gi-Oh, or at least I did a while ago. I never like actually played a game of it. I've thought about trying to get into Flesh and Blood. But here's the thing, right? Like let's use like this as like a graphical representation of how much money I spent lifetime playing Magic, right? Or like per year. This is how much money I spend per year playing Magic. And like if I had another TCG, I'd be spending like this much on Magic and then this much on like, the other TCG. Or I could spend like, I could still be spending this much, but now I'm like have half as many Magic cards and half as many of like other TCG cards. So and then like I would have like twice as much of my house, like with a bunch of like trading card game crap all over the place. So yeah, no, I don't think so. Favorite MTG legend and why? Same goes for artist. So are we talking about like legendary creatures or legendary like Magic personalities? I would probably say Like favorite legendary creature would be Kiki-Jiki. I had my foil Kiki-Jiki on earlier. That was like the first like money rare that I played in a pre-release associated with my first pre-release. So that's a good one. Garfield PhD, that could be another good one. I would like to meet Richard Garfield one day. I think that would be really cool. Flesh and Blood competitive decks are like buying new modern decks. Oh yeah. Well, that's kind of true. Same goes for an artist. So there are a few artists that I like. I'm attracted to their art style. I think that probably, I think that like some of the artists that I like their art is Kev Walker, John Avon, Pete Venners. Those are like three of my favorite Magic artists. Yeah, many judges just recommend learning to judge Flesh and Blood. Now, this is a great point. For me, I thought about that, and I actually studied to be a Flesh and Blood judge. I actually did end up taking the judge exam, and I was pretty close. I actually failed it by one question. If I actually seriously studied, I probably could have got it. And I could come back and do it again, I'm sure. But here's the thing. I have decades of experience with Magic. 10 plus, maybe almost 20, years now. And that means that if somebody asks me a question, I can be pretty confident that I can answer it appropriately. Now, with Flesh and Blood, I would have to put in a bunch of time and energy to become as acquainted with that game as I am with Magic. So if my goal was to go to tournaments and help organize tournaments and help players and be part of a community, then that's what I would do. Because if I could judge Magic and Flesh and Blood, then I could go to twice as many different events, and I would be able to, be part of both of those communities. And in fact, most of the judges for Flesh and Blood is Magic judges, very, very frequently. That's the case. But that's not actually why I judge. Why I judge is because I like going to events and feeling like I did a good job. And if I went to a Flesh and Blood event, and every time someone asked me a rules question, I had to say, hold on a sec, let me get someone who actually knows what they're doing to answer that question, I don't think I could feel like I was doing a good job. And I realized that when I was taking that judge exam for the Flesh and Blood, to become a Flesh and Blood judge. And so, while I was in the middle of that, I thought to myself, I really don't feel good about this. And so maybe I will become a Flesh and Blood judge if I can feel good about it. But that's the only way that would happen. Nice to be able to support both games and help out some LGSs. That's the other thing. A lot of LGSs in my area don't play Flesh and Blood. Almost nobody in my area plays Flesh and Blood. Very, very infrequent. Is there a mechanic or ability not currently in Magic that you would love Magic to experiment with in a future set? Oh, that's a great question. Okay. So I have thought about this. There's a couple of different ideas that I've had. I would like to see more cards like Serum Powder. Where they have an effect that you can take when you're doing a mulligan. I think that's a really unexplored design space, and I think that there's certainly some ideas that you could come up with pretty easily. I'm not going to say any of them in case Wizards is watching, and then maybe they'll call me about this or something. But I think that anyone with a little bit of imagination could come up with some ideas about stuff that you could do. And so we have the your opening hand, but there isn't a lot of stuff that happens when you're mulliganing. So I wish they would have more of that sort of stuff. Let's see. Yeah, that's very true. Flesh and Blood focusing on paper and making a deal about tournament play and getting popular when Magic is trying to be an esport was the best thing to happen for paper Magic. One of the best. I really do feel like it would be really great if the Magic tournament scene was a little bit, I guess, taken more seriously, even before the pandemic. I could feel that the like Magic tournament scene was not in like it was in about the worst place that I think it has been for a long time. So like getting like more interest in it is big. I really think the PTQ model is really integral. I really think that there needs to be some sort of a way for like Joe Magic player to think about, okay, so right now I only ever play a F&M. Maybe it would be fun if I could play at like some, bigger or more serious tournaments. And I really feel like that is, if we could get that to happen, that would be great. I'm not sure what the answer to that question is, but I'm very confident in saying that like the future of Magic depends on continued in-person tournaments. Because if you try to compare Magic as a game against like Hearthstone, Eternal, Legends of Runeterra, like any of the other like made for digital or made for mobile games that exist out there, there's like fundamentally Magic is not a better game than any of them. And in fact, in many cases, it's actually worse because you can go online right now, click the download button, and then be playing any of those games in 10 minutes. Whereas that's not true for Magic. So the biggest advantage Magic has over any of those things would be the fact that there's in-person tournaments where you can actually physically play at the same table as another human being. And I think that is huge for Magic. And that's something that I've appreciated more and more the later into my Magic career I've gone. So I really think that that's important. And I think that the push Magic has, in my opinion, tried to do over the last few years, where they try and push people onto the digital platforms, while it would be great if Magic players all did that for Wizards' bottom line, I don't think that would be great for Magic as a game. Because, in my opinion, without paper tournaments, Magic is a worse game than any of the made-for-digital trading card games that exist. Because those games were actually specifically designed to be digital games. Magic is a paper game that they're trying to retrofit into being a digital game. So fundamentally, I don't see how that could ever possibly be as good as a made-for-digital game. So the real key, I think, would be to embrace the paper. Let's see. Now there's been a few CEDH tournaments. Do you think I'll ever judge it? Well, I'm sure eventually. That's really down to like organizers. I wouldn't say that the Midwest is like a particularly hot area for CEDH tournaments as far as I'm aware. So as far as me personally judging one, that's probably what would need to happen, is that like some organizer close to me would have to be holding one. But like if that doesn't happen, like it'd be difficult for me to get that opportunity. But that is one of the things that, like, for me personally, like, as a judge, I love about the judge program is there's always different opportunities. I remember I went to GP San Antonio. So I actually had to fly to San Antonio. And the reason that I did it is because that was the first GP that was a Team Modern GP. And so at this phase in my judge career, that's what I'm really looking for, is I'm looking for new experiences that I haven't had an opportunity to experience yet. And the first CDH event would definitely be something like that. That would be a new experience that I'd be excited to go for. And I would, I'm not sure if I would fly to that because I was really excited for Team Modern. Whereas CEDH is not something that, like, I really feel like I would connect with as much. But at the same time, I'm certain that I could, that feels to me like another one of those events, like what I was talking about with Legacy earlier, where like it's a lot easier to or it's very important to have like a solid rules knowledge with Legacy, because you probably aren't going to have all the relevant interactions memorized yet. So I feel like CEDH would be like the same sort of idea. I can errata one card however I wish. What do I change? Easy answer. Blood Moon now says non-basic lands are mountains and have tap, add red to their to your mana pool, and they lose all other card subtypes and all other abilities. And we're gonna errata all the other cards the same way, and then we can take away the rule in the comprehensive rules that says that that's how it works if you lose a or gain a land subtype. So I feel like that would make that a whole lot cleaner if you could do that. And I know that I said that the last like 20 odd times. So maybe we could come up with like a new one for this episode, because that one I've definitely talked about on the channel before, how I would want to do something like that. So another idea that I had, I would try to come up with something like less confusing for Ligrella the Magpie. That would be one. Or here's a good one. All of those cards that say like look at the top 5 cards of your library and then put one in your hand and then put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, none of them would be a random order anymore. Selvala gains the LED restriction. That's a solid one. I could see that one happening. I'm thinking like the problem is that like unless Selvala like actually sees play in tournaments, nobody's gonna like do that. No, like I agree that it would probably be a good idea to put something like that on there, but nobody's gonna think to do something like that unless it shows up at a GP and people are like, wow, that was really dumb how that worked. We've got to fix that, right? Like that's the only way that's actually gonna change. So like the ones I guess I was thinking about would be like stuff that actually already shows up in tournaments and is like giving me a pain in the butt. So yeah, I guess that's a little bit different. So that is a really interesting question though. I'm not really sure. I bet that if I thought about that for like a few like a day, I bet I could come up with like some really good answers for that, for like what we should change. If you put X cards on the bottom of it in a non-library, you could stack your deck if it's small enough. Yeah, that's another one. Like I've thought about like how we could fix that problem, and I think that it would be really great if we could change the MTR so that it says something like if you're randomizing a portion of your library and it makes up less than 10% of the cards in your library, we could come up, maybe less than 50% even of the cards in your library, then you don't have to offer a cut to your opponent unless they ask for it. I feel like that would be a good way to fix that, because this is another really annoying thing that I hate how Wizards is doing, is that recently they're doing all these cards where like, you shuffle 3 cards and then put them on the bottom of your library. Like, I don't think the person who's in charge of templating understands that the way it works now, if you do that at competitive rel, and then you don't offer your opponent a chance to cut 3 cards, then you have committed improper shuffling or insufficient shuffling. And that's really silly as far as I'm concerned. So if we could get Wizards to go back to the original way where you could just pick the order of those cards, like Cascade makes sense, right? Because you could hypothetically be cascading for a ton of cards, and you actually could like stack your deck, and people might actually do that. Would I penalize a player for doing that? Probably not. If at all possible, I would just be like, it's tough because like, if you look at the policy documents, that's what it is, right? Like it's a clear, it might even be one of the examples if I'm remembering right, for insufficient shuffling. But at the same time, like the chances that you're going to gain an advantage from doing something like that are like nil. Have I ever made any really bad mistakes when judging? That kind of depends on your definition of like really bad. Like there was like a few times where I like gave someone a ruling that was incorrect, and I think that like is something I take really seriously. There was a thought experiment that I did for a while. I would go to like GPs and I would like ask players. So, okay, if you had a choice between having a judge make a wrong ruling in a match that you were a part of, or say something rude to you, which one would you rather have happen? And it was very, very common. I would say probably about 90% of the people said that they would rather have a judge say something rude to them than make a wrong ruling in a match. And I think that, like, I also asked the judge program, like my colleagues in the judge program, I asked a lot of them the same question. You know, let's say that today you're going to make one of the following mistakes. You're either going to issue a wrong ruling to a player, or you're going to inadvertently say something rude to a player. And which of these would you more likely have happen? And it was really interesting, I thought, because it was like 90-10 the other way. Like, most judges would snap, say, oh, I'd much rather issue a wrong ruling than inadvertently say something rude to a player. And I thought that was really interesting, that there was a big disconnect like that. So the kind of takeaway from that, I think, is that players and judges have kind of different conceptions about what a big mistake would be, what they conceptualize as that. But at the same time, it also like kind of spurs me on to be really serious about having, you know, very, very high level rules knowledge, because I appreciate that is something that players expect out of the judges, even above the like judge program expectations. The expectations players have for judges is very high. So I always do my best to like have my own skills in a spot where I'm able to meet those expectations. I take that responsibility seriously. And so yeah, that there are a couple of times where I've you know, made wrong rulings, and I do consider those to be pretty big mistakes. There are certainly times where like a player has done something and like I didn't intervene at the time, but like later on when I was thinking about that incident, I thought, hey, you know, it probably would have been the right call for me to actually say something there. And I can think about a few like specific incidents where stuff like that has happened too. So I would not say that, you know, I wouldn't say that it happens very frequently. You know, obviously if it's, you know, if I was making really bad mistakes frequently, I would probably have to reconsider something. But it is something where like they do stand out. But one of the things I tell people is that judging for the win really involves learning from your mistakes and looking at them critically and taking steps to prevent recurrence or minimize the likelihood of recurrence. So that's one of the big things that I try and do as a judge is any time I make a mistake of any kind, I try to think about like how could I have done something better, you know, changed my system in some way. So that is good. That is all of the questions that I had prepared today, and it's also all of the questions that it looks like I'm seeing in the chat. Definitely had a great time getting to hang out with everybody today. Again, I definitely encourage everybody to check out the new website, judgingftw.com, and send me an email at my new email address, dave@judgingftw.com. You know, make sure you check out the form that I have on there too, where you can submit rulings. That is, you know, a great resource if you're interested in submitting rulings to potentially be part of a future daily ruling. It's going to be really great. I'm super excited for that, and I hope everybody else likes it too. I am going to be working on the website to get it a little bit, you know, less bare bones looking than it is now, though. So yeah, thanks so much to everybody for coming out here and spending some time with me. Thanks to everybody who supported the channel in any way, especially including subscribing and recommending the channel to friends and helping me get to 8K subs. I'm super excited. And I hope everybody has an awesome day, and I'll see you later. Thank you all.